Now, considering the composition of a punch, when we have 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, and 4 of weak, plus spices. Let's compare that to a cocktail. After all, what is the difference? We know that cocktails are much more modern, relatively. Punches go back to 1632. Cocktails originate in the early 1800s, around 1806, when we first have the definition of a cocktail. Now, the definition of that early cocktail was spirits of any kind, sugar, water, and bitters. All right. Now, how does that relate to a punch? All right. Well, let's dissect it. A cocktail has water, same as the 4 of weak in a punch. A cocktail has sugar, 2 of sweet in a punch. But a cocktail has bitters. Interesting. Punches don't normally have bitters in it, at least not in the recipes. However, I have to say, I cannot stress enough how much bitters improve a punch. A punch has a lot of different ingredients in it, and I feel like the bitters can tie all that together while adding a little extra spice to the whole composition. We have strong, of course. Punches and cocktails would be nothing without the strong. But punches have one more ingredient that's not in the classic definition of a cocktail, and that is sour. Interesting. As you notice, you must be saying to yourself, of course there's sour in cocktails. That's why we have the margarita, we have the sidecar, we have the whiskey sour, pisco sour. Plenty of cocktails have a sour in it. So what happened? Well, people were drinking punches, and they were drinking punches for quite some time. And I kind of like to think of this as the original cocktail. People can debate whether that's true or not, but they have so much in common, I wouldn't see how it could really be in any other way. But people didn't want a mix of ingredients anymore. They wanted to taste that individual spirit. They wanted to taste that brandy, that bourbon, whatever you put in that base ingredient, that base spirit in a cocktail. You can't really taste it as much in a punch. So they separated the two. You had punches with the sour, and you had cocktails that had the pure spirit in it. Then later on, people got away from that. People got away from the idea of punch. People started putting together cocktails that included the sour, where you start to see things like the sidecar. And punches have almost been forgotten ever since.
Hot punch. Alright, so you could make traditional punches simply using hot water, maybe keeping them in a crock pot. There are other types of punches, though, such as toddies and wassails, which actually predate punch. So can we call wassail punch? Can we call a toddy punch? Can we call mulled wine punch? I'll leave it up to you. Some people don't, because it doesn't derive from the Indian punch. And some people do, because they're just a lot similar. Well, I'll save that for another show. But, for now, let me make you one of my favorite punches, derived from India. I will make it cold.
Alright, so for today, I'm going to be making my favorite punch. And my favorite punch is actually coming from the Caribbean. It's probably not the oldest punch in the world. As I was saying before, the oldest punches came from India. and probably using arak, Batavia arak, as the spirit, as the strong. I could not find any Batavia arak. Batavia arak is from Indonesia. It's also made in Sri Lanka. And it comes from a sugarcane and rice fermentation. If I can find it in my big alcohol stores, I doubt that you're going to be able to find it. However, we can make more of a Caribbean punch, which we often think of course including rum. I have a nice Barbados rum here. Nothing too expensive, just something you're willing to pay for. And bitters, limes, spices, tea, and turbinado sugar or demerara sugar. You could use brown sugar for this. I like this. It seems to measure out a little better, and it isn't quite as strong. It doesn't have that strong molasses flavor of the brown sugar. But you can use what you have, what you want. We have this punch bowl. This is my grandmother's old punch bowl. And, well, I'm alone. I'm not going to be drinking this whole bowl of punch. It's just a little too much for me. So actually, I'm going to be making a cocktail. Cocktails are ever more popular nowadays anyway. And I now have all of my ingredients ready for assemblage. Here they are. Alright, what I'm going to start off with is the tea. I have this wonderful French press or coffee press, which you can easily make for tea, and I think it goes very well with this. Because I'm going to have a variety of spices, as you see here. Alright, to this I am going to put 1 teaspoon of Earl Grey tea. I'm going to take this, it's a crystallized ginger, tear it up, throw it in there. 3, count them, 3 cloves, right in the coffee press. A little bit of cinnamon. You don't want enough, just like this. And I'm going to take this water. Here we go. I'm going to fill it 1 cup up. I know what 1 cup looks like in this particular coffee press, but if you're unsure, go ahead and measure it out. You're not going to use the entire cup, but with all the spices and the tea that we put in, 1 cup will be sufficient. Let it rest for about 5 minutes. And because of tradition and some extra spice, I'm just going to grate a little bit of nutmeg right into that hot tea. Okay, while the tea is going, I'm going to make my simple syrup. In here I have 2 ounces by volume of demerara sugar. I'm going to add to that 2 ounces of hot water. And I'm using a 1-to-1 simple syrup instead of a 2-to-1 simple syrup, just because I feel like it doesn't need to be that sweet. The original recipe was incredibly sweet. It doesn't need to be like that. So I'm going to put this over the stove, and I'm going to let it bring to a boil, just so that all of that sugar is melted. Okay, so now it's time to assemble our punch. Again, this is a scaled down version of a punch, meant for 1, maybe 2 people. And you can do it any way you want. If you want to have 1 part be 1 cup, 2 cups, what have you. You put in a big punch bowl, serve it to a lot of people. Because I'm alone, again, I'm going to make just a punch for 1 or 2. Maybe I drink a little too much. Well, let's start off with the sour. I've measured out 1 ounce of lime juice that I'm going to put in the glass. I have my simple syrup, which I have boiled and cooled slightly. I'm going to put in 2 ounces of simple syrup. And remember, this is a 1-to-1 simple syrup. Alright, next is strong. I've already measured out 3 ounces of gold rum. This is our Barbados rum. You could use Jamaican or Puerto Rican if you want. And we have the tea. The tea has been steeping for 5 minutes. Still a little warm, but that is okay. Just put on the plunger. All of the tea and the spices are in the bottom now. It's ready to pour. I'll measure out 4 ounces of the tea. And the tea, because of the crystallized ginger, reminds me a little bit of chai. You know, the Indian chai tea. It's quite similar, but it's a lot weaker. I think the chai tea would overpower it, but if you really want to, you can give that a try and see how much you like it. Finally, Angostura bitters. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful bitters. I'm going to put in about 3 dashes, maybe 4. I think it does quite a bit. Okay, so we now have our punch. The question is, ice or no ice? Here, we have it rather warm, or at least room temperature by the time it cools down. And that doesn't really fly for modern day people. It may have been fine in the 16th and 17th centuries, but come on. We like ice nowadays. Still, we have enough wheat in there. We have the 4 parts of wheat. Do we really want to add more wheat to it, watering it down with ice? It's up to you. It's your choice. Taste it. If it's too strong, add the ice. If it isn't, well, leave it be. Of course, we could find a happy middle. I like to take my punch and put it here in the fridge. I think after a couple hours, or even overnight in the fridge, will not only cool it down, but also will help the flavors mend together. If you're running out of time, go for the freezer. 30 minutes in the freezer with such a glass should be fine. Just be sure that take it out before it's popsicle. At the end, if it's too strong for you, add a few ice cubes. If you're making a big bowl, what you might want to do is buy one of those really big blocks of ice and just cut it to what you need. Well, that's all I have for you today. There's plenty more I'm sure I could talk about, but I'm running out of time and, well, money. It is a very low-budget show, if you haven't noticed that. Very sorry about the camera work. I hope you have a nice bowl of punch for me, for your friends, and for yourself. I'm Benjamin Doty, saying cheers.
Oh, come ye brave heroes, give an ear to me song, and I'll sing in praise of good brandy and rum. There's a clear crystal fountain near England shall roll. Oh, give me the punch ladle, oh, fathom the bowl. Oh, fathom the bowl, oh, fathom the bowl. Oh, give me the punch ladle, oh, fathom the bowl. From France we do get brandy, from Jamaica comes rum, sweet oranges and lemons from Portugal come, but stout and strong cider are in England's control.